Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webcast. I'm Keith Ritchie, Director of Global Marketing for LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, and I'm excited to be with you all today for the next hour. I have some content to share with you. That's what you all came here for, and then I'll save a good amount of time at the end to take your questions, and you can submit them in the WebEx chat. So I'll be answering questions from that chat at the end. And I encourage you to tweet using this hashtag, LinkedIn Marketing, as we go through. So again, thanks for joining, and I'm excited to share some new news from LinkedIn developed that will enable you to be more successful with your marketing on LinkedIn. And today I'm going to cover first our perspective about the evolution of the buyer and the challenges that it presents for marketers, but also the opportunities. And I'll spend most of today talking about what's new at LinkedIn and the keys to success that we see our clients who are the most successful doing to help power their marketing using LinkedIn. So I'll have a number of specific case studies to share with real best practices for how marketers, both big and small, are taking advantage of LinkedIn's new marketing solutions portfolio. And then I'll close today talking about how my team in particular is responding to this buyer evolution and using LinkedIn's full funnel solutions in order to power our marketing and be even more effective. So let's start with the one macro challenge that we see all marketers faced with, whether it's a large company, a smaller company, whether you're targeting B2B decision makers or you have a B2C audience. And the challenge is the fact that up to 90% of the customer journey is complete before a buyer reaches out directly to engage with your brand. So that puts the marketer at arm's length during that entire 90% of the journey before the direct outreach, and it puts the company at arm's length even more importantly. The reason that buyers are now able to complete their journey in such a fashion is because they now have access to information sort of anywhere, anytime, on any device, and anywhere in the world. So there's more connectivity than ever, and that really has created a lot of empowerment for the buyer to chart their own course when they're investigating a decision about a purchase. So big challenges for marketers, but also an opportunity. And there's a way in for marketers in that first 90% of the journey. And that way in is through content. So there's a study by Google that showed that 10 pieces of content are consumed before making a purchase decision. And because of that, marketers have a great lever to pull in influencing the outcome and being part of the conversation in that first 90% of the journey. And that's through content and content marketing in particular. So the best marketers nowadays are using content. And when we think about the journey and the complexity of it now, and the fact that it's nonlinear, the fact that it is mostly self-directed by the buyer, and the brands and companies have less control than they had before, it definitely seems like we live in a much more complicated world, and to be a marketer, you know, you're signing up for a very complex life. And that's true, but at LinkedIn, we've also observed that fundamentally that complex journey still boils down to essentially two phases of the funnel. And to influence the journey, you have to reach the right people and be sure that those are the right people for you to reach, that they are who they say they are, and then nurture them with relevant content that, even more importantly, is helpful to them achieving their goals, and that will enable you to acquire more of them. So that complex journey, it's still about the funnel at the end of the day, reaching more people, nurturing them with helpful content until you acquire them. And this is what we at LinkedIn have been really focused on as we develop our product portfolio. And I'll give you more insight into that a little bit later in this presentation. So even though thinking of the complex journey in this more simplified fashion certainly helps make life a little bit less complex, there's still a big challenge here. And that challenge has to do with math. So we all know that big data is powering marketing to a greater extent than ever before, and we should all be getting more comfortable with our math. So here's the math as it relates to the challenge. When you're trying to reach your target, drive them to your website, even if you get them there, on your best day, probably 5% will fill out a form and give you their contact information. This is in a B2B example. But the same dynamic holds for B2C too, if it's e-commerce and you're looking to get people to transact. So very low conversion rates from your website. That means you're missing out on 95% of the opportunities represented by traffic coming to your site. So that's that top challenge with the reach stage of the funnel. Then going to the next stage with nurture, let's say you do get their contact information. They fill out a form in order to download a piece of content that you've put behind a gate. Now you've got their email, but you have a secondary problem here, which is that only 20% of emails on average get opened. And that leaves another 80% of opportunities on the table. So if you combine these two numbers, the 95% not filling out the form, the 80% not opening emails, that means 99% of opportunities aren't captured. So you're only getting 1% of opportunities from traffic to your site. And unfortunately, that looks, when you visualize it, that looks like this, where a bunch of the opportunities, 99% of them, fall out of the funnel before they get to the acquisition phase. But what if the funnel worked like it should? You could reach the right people, deliver highly relevant content to them that, even more importantly, was helpful, and it was relevant because it was helpful for them to achieve whatever their objective was, whether that was a B2B objective or a B2C objective. And then tailor those messages and drive even greater relevance based on where the target was in their decision process. So if the funnel worked the way it really should and it was aligned throughout, top to bottom, then the math would look very different because all those opportunities would convert through. So this is what we've been thinking about very extensively at LinkedIn and how we've been architecting our product portfolio. So with the introduction of 2 new products, Network Display and Lead Accelerator, we now have a complete full funnel platform to reach professionals and to enable marketers to be more successful in achieving their goals. So I'll talk about each of these in detail in the upcoming section, but just to give you guys the high level here as a start when we're in this first section, we've got the products aligned on the right-hand side of the funnel, and they're color-coded so you can see that they aren't just point solutions. They actually operate at different levels of the funnel, and certain products cascade across multiple levels of the funnel. So top to bottom, with our full funnel portfolio, starting at the top, we have on-site display. So this is display advertising on LinkedIn in the premium environment of LinkedIn and in the professional context of LinkedIn. Network display then enables marketers to target the professionals who are members of LinkedIn across the entire web, wherever they're going, through ad exchanges. So that's a new introduction as of Q1 of 2015, LinkedIn Network Display. Sponsored Updates is our content marketing product, and it enables marketers to share their content in the world's only professional feed, right where the members are engaged in the feed. It's a native advertising solution. And Sponsored InMail, going further down the funnel, this is the purple line. Sponsored InMail gets you around that inbox problem that I articulated earlier, where on a good day, only 20% of people are opening their emails from companies. With sponsored InMail, open rates are averaging as high as 40% in our pilot program that occurred earlier this year. And we just released a refreshed product in February based on that pilot. And so there's lots of attributes of sponsored InMail that I'll talk about later in the next section that enable the performance to be as strong as it is compared to the normal email marketing benchmarks. And then finally, our other big new product, Lead Accelerator, really bottom funnel focused product for nurturing leads. And it enables marketers to drive more high quality leads faster. And it does it by nurturing across multiple channels, not just in email. So think of it as marketing automation for digital marketing as a whole, not just marketing automation for email. And it's powered, of course, by LinkedIn's data. So I'll have a lot more to say about Lead Accelerator in the next section. All of these products are underpinned by full funnel analytics and reporting. So you're able to see how your marketing is performing at every level of the funnel by campaign and by individual piece of creative. And the other important thing to note about the full funnel platform is that these products work better together. And a number of the case studies I'll share today address that point. So let's move into the next section. That's the overview of the evolution of buyer behavior and how LinkedIn's responded. Let's go deep on that product portfolio, and that's what this section is all about. But first, before we get into the product by product view and the case studies, I just want to talk again at a high level about 3 keys to success that our clients who are having the best results are living by. These are what we see the 3 keys to more effective marketing being. It's about reaching the right people with accurate targeting and having the confidence that you're reaching only the people you want. Nurturing them with helpful content based on who they are and what matters to them. And then measuring every step of the way so you can look both at the results you're having, moving branding metrics, and also moving direct response metrics, all with a simple, intuitive interface. So the 3 keys: reach, nurture, measure. And when we talk about reaching the right professionals, it's important to give you guys the understanding of who our members are. So the first thing to know is that there are over 347 million LinkedIn members globally. You can see from this graph that represents really rapid growth, especially in the last 5 years, but particularly over the course of the decade, going from almost nothing to now half of all the professionals in the world. And there are 200,000 professionals joining every day. So that's basically the biggest football stadium in the US twice over every day. So like the Rose Bowl, but twice a day. So it's pretty phenomenal growth. And because we have as many members as we do, and because they're showcasing their professional identity for the world to see, we have a ton of really rich data in aggregate that we can use to help marketers target. And so here are just a few of the dimensions that we can target off of. We can look at the demographics of the member in terms of what's their education, what company and industry are they in, how big is that company. We can look at the behavior that they exhibit on the site. What groups do they belong to? What geographies are they in? What geographies do they travel to? And we can look at how senior they are and what function they play in the company. And another important dimension here is this green circle, the connections that they have. We can see not only who they're connected to and what that says about them, but we can also target the connections. So if you run a marketing campaign, you have a specific set of target audience in mind, you can also expand that target to include the first degree connections of the people that you're trying to target, because they're very likely to be part of the influencer set for that person. So let's say you want to target John Smith. And let's say, for sake of argument, he's a small business owner, and that's the target that you're looking to reach on LinkedIn. And the other important thing to know about our member is why they're investing their time on LinkedIn. And it's because of the value they get from LinkedIn. And we think of the value LinkedIn delivers to the member in terms of these 3 value propositions. The first 2 are people and knowledge, and then that yields opportunity. So focusing here on people and knowledge, these are the connections that John has and the members of groups that he's in that are like-minded. And then the knowledge comes from those connections, comes from the groups, and from the content that John's consuming and sharing on LinkedIn. So he's not only gaining knowledge by consuming content in the LinkedIn feed that's either shared by his connections or shared into the platform by publishers, but he's also exhibiting his knowledge by sharing back out to the platform and sharing with his connections the things that he's passionate about and the things that he's knowledgeable about. And so the people and the knowledge contribute to the opportunity for the individual members. So for John, he's a small business owner, and for him, opportunity is represented by the ability to build new skills, to help his company grow, and ultimately to advance his career. And this applies for every LinkedIn member, but for John in particular, career advancement for him is being an even better small business owner, growing that business into a medium business and even ultimately an enterprise-sized business. And that opportunity that our members are seeking creates a really powerful opportunity of its own for our marketers who are using the platform to connect with our members. Because if you can be helpful to the member and help them realize the opportunity that they're after, then they'll reward that help by directing their business your way. And that's why it's so important to be sharing content that's helpful and not just relevant. And before we dive into the platform, I just wanted to touch on the third pillar of the keys to success. So I mentioned the 3: reach, nurture, and measure. And under the measure pillar, this is just a quick deep dive into the types of metrics that are now available on the platform. So we've totally refreshed the analytics capabilities for marketers on LinkedIn. And so if you've used the platform in the past but haven't recently, there's a lot of new metrics that you can use. So you can use metrics that relate to the reach you're getting and who you're reaching. And even more importantly now, you can look at metrics for conversion in terms of the action that you want that target to take, whether that's filling in a lead form or completing a transaction on your site. And through our analytics tools that connect to your site, you can now track those conversion metrics and ultimately end up with looking at cost per action. And all of the layers of your funnel on LinkedIn can be optimized on an ongoing basis because of this reporting. And here's just a quick example of what that dashboard view, some of our metrics tools, look like. So if you're using Lead Accelerator, this is an example of the measurement tool that you'll see when you're looking at an individual nurture stream and how it's performing. And then a couple of quick call-outs there about how the funnel impact will be made visible by level of the funnel. And you can't really read, obviously, the right-hand circle, but that shows the different demographic data and the breakdowns you can get of the audience that you're reaching. So there's a lot of different ways to cut it, looking by company size, by industry, by the job function, by seniority, plus those other attributes that I showed earlier about our membership. So let's begin our deep dive through the funnel and our portfolio of products. We'll start with on-site display. This is the product for you to stay on the radar early in the decision journey. So we know from that stat above, about 90% of the journey is completed before a buyer reaches out to a brand. And we've known for a long time as marketers, even before that that statistic was highlighted by Forrester, we've known for a long time how important it is to stay top of mind with the audience. And it's even more important today because of that statistic. And so getting on the radar of your buyer early and staying there during their decision journey is really crucial. And LinkedIn on-site display can do that for you, especially if context and the context in which your brand appears and your message appears is really paramount for you. So if context is king, the professional context of the LinkedIn platform and our on-site display that gets you in front of 340 million plus professionals is really a great solution. We've got all the IAB standard ad formats, plus some other ones that are unique to us, including a follow company ad and spotlight ads. So again, this is if context is king for you, then LinkedIn on-site display is the way to get top of mind with the members on LinkedIn. So I'll share a case study. This is my favorite targeting case, and it comes from Cathay Pacific. They were using on-site display, and they had opened up some new routes to Asia from cities in the US that they'd never flown from before. So they wanted to raise awareness of these new routes and ultimately get buyers to select the Cathay Pacific when flying from these cities to Asia. So we've got 340 plus million members. At the time of this case, it was slightly less than that. And obviously not all of them are going to be buyers of airfare business class to Asia. So there are very few platforms on earth, in fact I can't think of another one, where you'd be able to pinpoint at scale the right people to target with this message about these new routes. And so Cathay Pacific used a combination of our targeting capabilities. They looked for business people who lived near the cities where the routes were originating in the US, who were members of groups about doing business in Asia, who by their geolocation, we knew that they had been traveling to Asia and were in the kinds of roles with the kinds of seniority that would suggest they'd be booking travel for business. And because of this really powerful targeting, the program was a big success. The planes were more full than the target benchmark when they launched, and Cathay Pacific was able to create a really targeted program that was highly, highly relevant to the audience that they were trying to reach because of our targeting and because of using on-site display. So let's turn now to network display. This is taking the same targeting, but of the professionals who are members of LinkedIn, but then reaching them wherever they travel online. So if context is important to you, but frequency and scale is also really critical, then LinkedIn network display is the upper funnel solution for you. This enables you to reach your prospects in a really accurate way, but also in a broad way wherever they're traveling online. This is on LinkedIn, but also across our network of 2,500 business publisher sites and even more, all served by targeting the member through ad exchanges. And it's important to note that it's always in a brand safe environment. So LinkedIn has been very selective about curating that list of publishers and partners to ensure brand safety for all of our advertisers. And the other big win about network display is you're getting access to that powerful reporting and the metrics that I was talking about earlier. So you can look at the full funnel impact of the people that you're reaching with network display. Let's talk about a case study here for network display. OpenDNS, they're a IT security company. And this, I mentioned before how using multiple products in the portfolio is really powerful. And this case study highlights an example where OpenDNS was using an upper funnel product of network display and a lower funnel product of lead accelerator. and they were using that in conjunction to raise awareness and shape perception in the upper funnel with network display, and doing that at scale across that network of publishers and partners through the ad exchange. And then they were using Lead Accelerator to nurture the leads that came to the site, to the OpenDNS site, and nurture them until they were able to acquire them. So you can see from the results here, driving a ton of new website visits from the exact target that they were looking for, and they could measure that. Way more page views because of the priming they'd done with the display, network display ads, and way more visits in terms of people returning again because of that campaign. And it was a big lead generator for them, 280 new leads, really high quality leads for OpenDNS. And those new leads were driven by Lead Accelerator and in conjunction with that upper funnel product, network display. So we'll talk more about Lead Accelerator in just a minute, but I want to highlight how you can take an upper funnel solution, pair it up with a lower funnel solution, and drive impact through the full funnel. So speaking of driving impact through the full funnel, sponsored updates, moving down the funnel one level, and this product spans, it's really our most versatile product because it spans objectives in the upper funnel and the lower funnel really well. So it's great for sharing content in the feed where people are most engaged and across any device, across desktop, tablet, and mobile, as you see here from this diagram. So if you post one sponsored update and it seamlessly adapts to be visible on the desktop feed, on the tablet, and on a mobile phone, wherever the customer is engaged at that time. So as a marketer, you just have to set one update, and then it'll seamlessly render in all three platforms. And as I mentioned, sponsored updates is great for achieving your upper funnel objectives, shaping perception, building awareness. And the next case study I'm going to talk about is Adobe. So you can see here from the example that these updates are from Adobe. So I'll talk about an Adobe case study where they had an upper funnel objective. And then I'll also share a case study with a lead gen lower funnel objective. And content marketing is a great versatile tool for doing both the upper funnel and lower funnel. So that Adobe case, Adobe had an interesting challenge. They're top of mind and everyone knows them for their creative software solutions. So if you're an art director, you're using Illustrator. If you're a photographer, you're using Photoshop. And marketers obviously are immersed in that world too, and so that's what they think of when they think of Adobe. They think of the Adobe Creative Suite. But for Adobe, their much bigger marketing opportunity and their much bigger business opportunity was a shift that the company was making to be a leader in digital marketing automation and digital marketing software. The problem was, as their business was shifting there, perception was lagging. So they used sponsored updates to share thought leadership with our members that helped elevate the perception of Adobe as someone with solutions for digital marketers, not just for creatives. And through this thought leadership campaign on sponsored updates, they were one of the pilot customers when we were first introducing this product. We did a brand lift study for them that compared the perceptions of the brand for people who had been exposed to the campaign versus people who had not. And we saw a 50% increase in the likelihood that people would agree Adobe's shaping the future of digital marketing. We saw a 2.5x lift that Adobe's updates captured their attention, and 79% were more likely to agree if they'd been exposed that Adobe can help optimize media spend, which is a capability of Adobe's that many marketers didn't realize they had. So really powerful brand lift results with an upper funnel objective for Adobe using sponsored updates. And I'll talk about a lower funnel objective from Convey. So Convey is a company that helps mobile app makers develop better apps more efficiently and ultimately more successfully. So very tech focused, so they're targeting app makers. And that's a very targeted audience, obviously. And they were looking to drive leads and do so in a way that was through sharing thought leadership. So they had a survey that they fielded, and they published the report. And that's the example that's here, their sponsored update on the state of the enterprise mobility. And what they saw as a result of the sponsored updates campaign was 38% more leads than the other social channels they were using to drive leads, and a 65% lower cost per lead than other social channels. So they cut their cost per lead by more than half using sponsored updates. So really powerful way of generating more leads and therefore generating lower cost per lead. And since those leads are coming from LinkedIn with the targeting that we have, you know they're going to be high quality. Let's move down the funnel one more notch. Now we're really deep into the direct response objectives layer of the funnel in that nurture phase. And this is where those DR goals are reigning supreme. And sponsored InMail, which we refreshed and relaunched in February, is a real game changer in terms of taking email marketing effectiveness to the next level. It's the most direct way to engage your prospects on LinkedIn and drive those leads. And there's a few really noteworthy changes to the product that we've made. So again, if you've used sponsored InMail in the past, it's been significantly augmented, so it's worth taking another look. And again, those augmentations, we now have dynamic delivery. So the sponsored InMail is delivered to the member only when the member is engaged on LinkedIn. That means you have 100% deliverability. It's optimized for mobile, so it works on desktop and mobile, but you can see by this screenshot example that it renders really seamlessly in mobile and has a persistent CTA at the bottom that stays there in that position as you scroll through. And that really drives high click-through rates. There's also a 60-day exclusive for reaching an individual member. So if you target a specific member with an InMail, sponsored InMail, they cannot get another sponsored InMail from a different company within 60 days. So that gives you huge exclusivity and a really big share of voice, 100% share of voice for that 60-day window in their LinkedIn inbox. And because of these augmentations, we saw in our pilot, the average open rates were 40%, which is phenomenally higher than the average open rates for a standard business email that's coming into a cluttered inbox. And so because this is delivered to the LinkedIn experience and because of that 60-day exclusivity, there's a lot higher performance from InMail. So I'll share a case study from Replicon. They're a maker of software for timesheet management, and they're a power user of InMail. And so they got a 48% open rate with sponsored InMail, 11 times better than what they're getting from their own internal emails that they're sending. And they paired this solution. This is another example of using multiple products together. They paired this solution with sponsored updates and drove 73% lower cost per lead than using one of our competitors when they combined the InMail solution with sponsored updates. So really, really powerful results from Replicon, and shows how sponsored InMail is a real game changer and can really break through that barrier to email with the low open rates that I mentioned as one of the main challenges for marketers at the beginning of this call. So let's spend a good amount of time here on Lead Accelerator. It's our other big new product. It's all about getting you to your ultimate goal of acquiring new customers by converting more leads and contributing to the sales pipeline if you're in B2B or in high consideration B2C. And it's an entirely new way to nurture prospects. So again, as I mentioned, the simplest way to think about it is as a marketing automation platform for digital media, so not just for email. So many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with marketing automation like Eloqua, like Marketo, like HubSpot, and those can work great, particularly in the use case of email. But Lead Accelerator takes that same philosophy of marketing automation, segmenting your audience, connecting them with very particular messages and content, and takes it beyond email into other digital channels, particularly display ads and social media. So you can use Lead Accelerator to deliver more high-quality leads by engaging your prospects anywhere they travel online with relevant ads and content. And this helps you convert that 95% of anonymous web visitors, because you can start nurturing them as soon as they visit your site. You don't have to wait until they provide an email address. And you don't have to nurture them in email. That's why you don't have to wait until they provide an email address, because you can nurture them now with display ads and with social media. And then even if you do have their email address and you're able to nurture them through email, using Lead Accelerator, you can get to that other 80% that's not opening the email because you're nurturing them with display and social. So the little schematic here shows how this might work. You've got a sponsored update, nurture touch, number one here. You've got a display ad, nurture touch, and then a different display ad over on the desktop experience. And it shows how you can send different nurture streams to different targets. So I'll go one step further on Lead Accelerator. These are the five phases of a Lead Accelerator campaign. First, most importantly, it's about reaching the right audience. So you have to identify who you're trying to target and what different segments you're going after. You can target segments really any way you like based on the targeting parameters. You can also target based on their behavior on your site. So you can look at people who are really upper funnel because they're coming to your site and bouncing after just browsing one or two pages. Or you can look at nurturing people who are much further down the funnel because they've been on your site, they've consumed a lot of content, they've been to a number of pages, they might have checked out your case studies or looked at every product. And you can set up a very different kind of nurture stream to capture the people who are further down the funnel than the ones who are at the top of the funnel. And that moves to step two. So once you have the segments identified, then you want to figure out the right sequence of ads to get the relevant message and the helpful content to those different segments. So this is another big game changer because you're not just doing retargeting on display. You can do proper nurturing with a genuine sequence that's very thoughtful about how to take people from one level of the funnel to the next and beyond. And you can do that on display and social. And if you have an integration, if you have Eloqua or Marketo, we've integrated with both of those platforms, and you can also add email to the mix. So it can be inclusive of email as well. So you've got your nurture stream set up with the right sequence of ads for the different target segments you're trying to reach. That's going to help you increase conversions, so driving more high-quality leads. And there's real-time reporting in an interactive dashboard, so you can optimize each individual nurture stream for each segment. You can look at the creative that's performing the best and optimize to that. You can pause the creative that's not working as well and really put your weight behind the ads that are. And you can even A/B test or beyond. You can do multi-tests. And it's all visible in the dashboard, so you can optimize in real time. And the full funnel reporting gives you the ability to measure your impact. So you can look at the actions per impression. So how many impressions does it take to drive an action? You can look at the cost per action. So if you define the action as a lead, how many people filled in the form, you can look at that cost per action and optimize from there. And that comes full circle where you start again taking the optimization, taking the impact that you have, the knowledge of the campaign, and making modifications to the people you're targeting, the segments you're targeting. You can add more segments, you can subtract some that aren't performing as well, and so on. So that's Lead Accelerator in a nutshell, and I want to share two cases from Lead Accelerator. The first is from eCornell. This is Cornell University's e-learning portal, and they saw really powerful results in using Lead Accelerator to drive leads for people enrolling in their online education programs. So they saw conversion rates 2 times higher than a normal marketing campaign, and the nurture streams that were using sponsored updates in particular as part of that nurture stream were 4 times higher than conversion rate than normal. And they saw much lower cost per lead. So they were using traditional retargeting to target anonymous visitors to their website, and with this solution that goes way beyond retargeting, as Lead Accelerator does, they're getting even lower cost per lead because of how intelligent the nurture streams are. You can set them up to be that way, and because of the channels that you can use social as well as display. So that's the eCornell case. Here's another case study from Cetera. So Cetera is a software company that works with financial service professionals, and their targets are people like investment advisors. Again, a very select target, very hard to reach, but LinkedIn has them in abundance. And so Cetera used a multiple product solution here. They had an upper funnel use case, so they were using network display, and then they had a lower funnel use case of driving leads. So they were using Lead Accelerator. They're pairing up the upper funnel product of network display with the lower funnel product of Lead Accelerator. And they had those campaigns running in sync, not the band, but simultaneously, and driving 900 new website visits from finance professionals, very hard segment to reach, driving them to Cetera.com, and then generating from that and from nurturing those leads $1 million in new business. And they could track that campaign performance and optimize as they went. And that's how they were able to achieve, for them, that big result of $1 million in incremental business just from these 2 campaigns. So summarizing our full funnel portfolio, it's all about reach, nurture in order to acquire, and leveraging the products in combination so you can hit those upper funnel objectives and those lower funnel objectives. And the 3 keys, just to restate those: reaching the right people, delivering helpful content to them, and then tracking and optimizing at every step of the way via measurement. So I'm going to spend about 5 minutes or so on how our team is approaching this buyer evolution and leveraging the keys to success in order to be more productive and be more effective in our marketing. And so I'll spend about 5 minutes there and then leave about 10 minutes at the end for your questions. So for us, content is really at the core. I mentioned earlier how important content is in influencing the new buyer's journey and how much buyers are consuming content. And LinkedIn overall has really evolved to be a platform for content for our members and a platform for content marketing for our marketing customers. And so our marketing team has really adapted to that in the last couple of years, and we've now made content the centerpiece for us. It flows into our campaigns and our marketing automation and our use of Lead Accelerator. I'll show you an example of that in just a couple slides. We are showcasing content at the events where we're sponsoring or events that are proprietary that we're hosting. And we're also capturing content at events and feeding that back into our content engine. And then obviously, as many of you have already done, social and blogging online is a great delivery mechanism for content, both organic and paid. And content's at the core, and for us, we start with what we call the big rock. And this is a big piece of content that tackles a big, meaty subject in depth. And you'll do, for us, maybe one of these, maybe two of these per quarter as a big rock, and it'll fuel a lot of our marketing performance and a lot of our lead gen for that quarter and then beyond. And we found a lot of success with this particular piece of content, the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn. We just refreshed it for 2015. We originally launched it at the beginning of 2014. It's the comprehensive guide to using LinkedIn for marketing. So even if you've already dipped a toe in, even if you're already pretty advanced in using LinkedIn for marketing, there's a lot of tips and tricks in here and a lot of guidance on who's doing it well and who's doing it best. So this big rock piece of content was really powerful for us because we could extend the mileage, and that's what makes it a big rock. It's such a heavyweight piece of content that it can really be spun out into these different assets, and they can all fuel more engagement, more reach of that big rock piece of content and drive performance. And content really fuels our conversation with our blog. So we're now posting 6 times a week on the Marketing Solutions blog, sometimes even more frequently if it's a busy week. So we've really invested in making that a great resource for marketers. Lots of helpful insights there, including this blog post there on the far right about the blogging food groups. And that is prescription that we adhere to ourselves. So we like to mix up the palette on our blog with quality content that takes a number of different flavors. So on Mondays, for example, we like to have a spinach blog. And like spinach, some people love spinach, not everyone does. It's really healthy for you, and it's not always the most delicious, but you know you feel better after you've eaten it. And that's for blogs that are particularly focused on, how-to and best practices. So not everyone likes taking that kind of medicine or eating that way, but it's ultimately really good for you. And then a roast, that's a really meaty topic that invites a lot of discussion. Tabasco is something spicy, so taking a provocative angle. And then chocolate cake is something fun. So we'll typically do a chocolate cake post toward the end of the week. And then on Saturdays now, we're publishing the B2B Beat. So our content marketing B2B lead, Sean Callahan, used to be a reporter for Crane's Business. And so he's got his little reporter's hat on in his avatar picture for the B2B Beat. And he recaps the top things that B2B marketers need to know about the prior week every Saturday. And that's a great example of a piece of chocolate cake that's fun. So the important thing isn't, lining up rigidly the flavors by day of the week. The important thing is having a balanced diet for your blog. We're using the LinkedIn Showcase page, which is an offshoot of the LinkedIn company page. It's connected to the parent company page, but it gives LinkedIn Marketing Solutions its own unique page identity on LinkedIn. And that's a key content hub for us. We're distributing content. And from our Showcase page, we can publish sponsored updates. So we can publish organic updates and then sponsor them to drive results. We can also do a direct sponsored content update, which doesn't require a post to the Showcase page first. If we have a very segmented message or we want to do some A/B testing, direct sponsored content is a great way to do that. And as you can see, sponsored updates is a huge driver of performance for us. 30% of all leads in a given quarter are coming from sponsored updates and the social engagement that drives. Moving further down the funnel, targeted InMails, great way for us to send a very personalized and targeted message directly to the member. And so we'll do this when we have a big product introduction, like sponsored updates or lead accelerator. And you can see here how, in the example of sponsored updates, when we launched it in 2013, we used sponsored InMail to send one version with Adobe to marketers in the US, and then a different version with a UK case study from the pilot to marketers in the UK. So lots of great geographic targeting and segmentation that you can do with it. And then all the way down in the hardcore nurture phase of the funnel, looking at how we're using Lead Accelerator, we have 4 main audience segments that we've targeted from the behavior that they're exhibiting on our website. And the important thing here to know is not looking at this bingo card grid and getting a diagonal and calling out bingo. The important thing to know is that you can segment the audience based on where they are in the funnel. So engaged, people who are consuming more content than the average visitor, versus people who are upper funnel and they're bouncing at the home page. And you can serve a different sequence and a different stream of communication to those different audiences. And then for people who are investigating specific products, so we have more products in the portfolio than just these two, and we have unique nurture streams against each product. But the example on this slide shows how there's a specific lead accelerator nurture stream and then a sponsored updates nurture stream, each with different sets of content, sets of ads. And together, our ability to leverage the LinkedIn platform has driven great results for us through the funnel. So we're sourcing 25% of the new customer acquisition for our business unit, and a lot of that is coming from social leads. So 47% of all inquiries are driven by social. That was year to date, so toward the end of 2014. And we've seen big increases because of our investment in the blog, in both, and our investment in content. We've seen big increases in blog traffic and in site traffic in terms of organic traffic. So wrapping up here, and then I'm going to take your questions for a little bit more than 5 minutes. We're using our full funnel solution just as we're advising our customers to. So the reach phase and making sure that we're building the brand awareness and shaping perception in the upper funnel, and then driving those people through to acquisition by nurturing them with helpful content. And aligning to these 3 keys to success: reaching, nurturing, and measuring. So that's how we're using it, and that's how our customers who are being the most successful are using LinkedIn for marketing as well. So with that, thanks everyone for joining. I will now take questions for about the next 7 minutes. And I'm taking them from the chat, so I'm going to read through and start picking these off one by one. There's a question about Lead Accelerator and how it's different from the display network. And then there's a couple more questions about Lead Accelerator. So I'll start there since that's the biggest new product and probably the one that people have the most questions about. So first question, how is Lead Accelerator different from network display? And the confusing thing, I'll admit it's confusing, is that Lead Accelerator actually uses network display as one of the channels that powers the nurturing. But the big difference between Lead Accelerator and network display is a single channel, and you're running individual ads as part of a campaign in that channel, where Lead Accelerator is marketing automation for digital marketing. So you're setting up a nurture stream or a series of nurture streams to run against different segments of people hitting your site and people in your email database if you have Eloqua or Marketo. And then those nurture streams are running while you optimize. So it's really a difference between network display as another display channel and Lead Accelerator as a marketing automation channel. And another question about Lead Accelerator: do we set the sequence for ads? Meaning, does the individual marketer set the sequence for ads? And the answer is yes. So the great thing about Lead Accelerator is you get a consultation, on-site visit from one of our marketing automation consultants, and they'll literally whiteboard for you, and with you actually, with your partnership, they will whiteboard your customer segments, the funnel performance that you see from your site, and work on identifying the right nurture streams and the right pieces of content that you have already or that you need to create in order to set up those nurture stream sequences. So it's a highly consultative kickoff process, and then the sequence is all determined and ultimately decided by the marketer, but you don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself because you're getting the consultation from the marketing automation consultant. Another question about Lead Accelerator: I did mention that it displays on social. So for right now, it displays on LinkedIn in the feed with sponsored updates, and it displays on Facebook with their promoted posts. So it's LinkedIn and Facebook, those two social channels for right now. Question, we're going to move up the funnel a little bit to sponsored InMail. Question about dynamic delivery. Does it mean it's delivered when the person is actively engaged in LinkedIn? And the answer is yes. So the sponsored InMail is only delivered when the person in your target audience is actively on LinkedIn, and it shows up as a notification for them, and if they're checking their InMail inbox, it's in there. But it's only going to be delivered if they're actively engaged on LinkedIn. So you get 100% deliverability. Another question about sponsored InMails. Can it be linked to prospects that click on sponsored updates? And that's a custom solution that may be workable if you're doing business with one of our account executives, so one of our sales representatives, and that may be possible. It's not possible in a self-service because you can't currently use sponsored InMail self-service. You can use sponsored updates self-service though. So that's a good question for your account executive. That may be possible. How effective is Lead Accelerator for B2B? We're going to move back down the funnel, and the answer is it's very effective. The case studies that I shared are B2B companies, and B2B is really the primary use case for Lead Accelerator because you're looking at longer purchase cycles in B2B. You're looking at complex decisions that require a lot of deliberation, a lot of conversation between multiple people inside a company, and that's tailor-made for nurturing and driving people further down the funnel as they're contemplating their decision. So we see B2B marketers being the earliest adopters of Lead Accelerator and leaning in most heavily with it. The other use case for Lead Accelerator is if you're a high consideration B2C marketer. So it's similarly, the dynamics there have longer purchase cycles, complex decisions, and nurturing, again, is a great use case for that. And moving back up about sponsored InMail, sponsored InMail is available for purchase through a LinkedIn account representative. So if you visit our website and fill in a form, contact us. We'll get back in touch with you about partnering with an account representative. There are budget minimums for conducting business through one of our account execs. And another question about InMail, the exclusivity window, the 60 days, is that for any InMail or is it just those in the same category? Quick answer there, it's for any InMail. So it's not specific to a category, it's for any InMail. And question about Eloqua, is there a cloud connector available for LinkedIn Lead Accelerator to integrate with Eloqua? So I don't know the specifics on the cloud connector, but yes, as of earlier this year, Lead Accelerator was integrated with Eloqua. And in fact, at the Modern Marketer Experience, there was a keynote presentation about that integration specifically. So absolutely, if you have Eloqua, Lead Accelerator is integrated in there. All right, well, we're right at the noon o'clock hour here on the West Coast. So if you're in a different time zone, you're on a different hour. But thank you, everyone who joined. It was a great hour to spend with you, and I really appreciate your questions and spending this time with me today. Thanks.